Hey guys, Dante here back with another little video, and in this one I'm be talking about the build that I was playing, and I want to apologize for that because I didn't post in a while. December's been just a really hectic month at work and all sorts of stuff. And most of the footage they had for this build planned was actually corrupted, and I couldn't access it, and it couldn't render, and it was just a horrible pain in the butt to try and um, make more showcase sides of the build because after I recorded everything, the bosses, the clear speed, everything, I actually got an offer for the build, so I sold it. And then when I realized that the footage was corrupted, then I couldn't really like re-record it because I didn't have the gear anymore. But I'll go through the step-by-step basics of the build, and I'm gonna explain to you why Elihit is good with investment. Okay, so let's get straight into it. So we were playing a Elihit Raider with we're stacking frenzy charges, and we're going for Avatar of the Veil, which gives us avoid elements and apply a free exposure to nearby enemies, and basically just the frenzy stacking and the benefits that come with it. Okay, now this is I've seen a lot of raiders going over with iron reflexes, and I was very hesitant at first, very skeptical, but it does make a big difference in survivability. So I highly recommend that you spec into iron reflexes. We're gonna get into that at the defensive part of the PoB, and I'll explain how that works. Okay, so as a raider, we're pathing all the way here. We're taking the mana reservation. Taking this mana grace has reduced reservation, all the life nodes that you can get. This build is extremely int dependent, and as you can see, I had to take these 2 points here just so I can get some more int. If you can get the more int on your gear, then you could save some points on the tree, which would help you in the long run. You can spec into more life, more defenses, more whatever. Okay, but this is what I had to do because this is how I basically sold the build, and yeah, that's how it ended up. Let's get into the gear first. For the weapon, we are using a +3 bow, and we're using +1 socketed gems, +2 bow gems, and bow attacks fire 2 additional arrows. How to craft this bow is basically I bought the base for a few exalts with +2 arrows and +2 socketed bow gems. Then I did can have up to 3 crafted modifiers, and cannot roll attack mods, which is a very expensive craft. It's like 3x craft, and then you slam it, and then the only thing that it can give you is +1 of socketed gems. Then you remove the crafted mods, and then you multi-mod with attack speed and damage penetrates. Then total investment for making the bow was about 10x, including the base. So yeah, and then the bow itself, as with multi-mod, is worth about like 20x. So I crafted it for half the market price value. But this was at the moment when I made the bow, which is like a week ago or something like that. Okay, the quiver is both additional arrow, crit chance, and crit multi with life and elemental damage from attack skills. So how I made this bow is, so I craft this quiver is basically you spam essences of woe on it until you get something that you're happy with. For example, I spammed it until I got a good life roll, and bow attacks for an additional arrow. Once you get that, I'm not gonna like speed the video up until you get something like that, but basically you get this T1, and then just gonna craft this real quick. Bow attacks for additional arrow. Okay, so when you have your prefixes in place like this, elemental damage, attack skills, bow attacks, additional arrow, and a life mod that you're really happy with, then you can do craft. Prefix is gonna be changed, and then you go to harvest, and then you basically do reforge more common, crit until you get a good critical strike multiplier roll. Then you're pretty good. Then you do another prefixes cannot be changed, and then you do a ashling, and hopefully it removes the crafted mod just like it happened there, and you unveil, and hopefully you will get the increased elemental damage if you did the critical strike recently, and then finally you just craft attack speed, right? What is it? Attack speed. You just craft attack speed, and that's a GG bow. That's the bow that I crafted, and I was very happy with it. Now, if you don't unveil the elemental damage, if you did the critical strike recently and you get the frenzy, you could sell it, buy another base, start over, or you could go to the previous step, which is you can prefix cannot be changed, annul. Moving over to the chest piece, I did have a elevated critical strike chance from the hunter influence mod, and elevated chance to gain a power charge on critical strike, 3% damage per power charge. Now, this is not really necessary, but if you have the extra currency, if you want to like flex a little bit, then you can do this craft. You basically take the elevated mod from the hunter, awaken orbit with the crusader, and then hopefully you get a good suffix. In my case, I got regen, which is not bad, not great, but ideally you would like spell suppression or something like that, or resist. Once you have this, you basically do prefixes cannot be changed. In order to fill in the prefixes, the suffix cannot be changed, I mean. Then you do a harvest, reforge caster, and the only caster mod that it can give you is additional curse. Once you have this, basically you do another prefixes, suffix cannot be changed. You do an ashling, and hopefully, in this case it didn't, hopefully it removes the meta mod and you keep the additional curse. If it removes the additional curse, let's see if I can get it again, then you will do another reforge caster, and you go again. Suffix cannot be changed, and then you do the ashling, and you got additional curse. This removed the second mod, so you unveil and you want to get either avoid elements, which is very good, or 10% mana or life. Once you have that, you remove this and you craft just life, right? And once you get that, your chest is good to go. So that's all it takes. The tricky part is getting the elevated mods. You can either buy them or gamble them yourself. But once you get this suffixes set up, you're basically good to finish on your prefixes. Moving on to the boot section, I had a double elevated again. I got very lucky with my Maven orbs, so I elevated the Hunter Tailwind mod and elevated the chance to gain Onslaught, which basically we have Onslaught from the Flask also, but you can get this from the movement speed, which we'll get into later. But the main thing why elevated Onslaught is good is because it gives you 10% increased attack cast and movement speed while you have Onslaught. If you have a steady source of Onslaught, such like a Onslaught on Hit Ring, Cinder Swallow, or Onslaught Flask, or Onslaught on Kill, basically you will have permanently 10% increased attack cast and movement speed during mapping, and on bosses when you have the Flask effect active, you're gonna have another 10% increased attack cast and movement speed, which is very quality of life and speeds up your map progression. How do you get these? You basically get the elevated mods, either you Maven them again or you buy them, then you use Awakener Orb and you put them together. In my case, I got life regen again, and once you get your suffixes, you go again to a bench craft and you do suffix cannot be changed, reforge crit, which the only mod that it can get, ideally you want to get like a clean one like this. You get elusive gain on critical strike. So after that you do another suffix cannot be changed and you ashling, and hopefully it removes the meta mod. If it removes the elusive, let me try and do that again. If it removes the elusive, basically you just gotta go to harvest again and reforge crit, and hopefully it gives you a clean okay, it doesn't want to work. Okay, it gives you a clean elusive on crit. Once you have that, you do again and repeat the process. You do ashling, removes the meta mod, and you unveil it and you get movement speed. If you get onslaught is good, any movement speed is good. And then finally in the prefixes on the bench you craft life. Where is it? Here it is. craft life, and you got yourself a pretty nice pair of boots. That's how you craft these: double elevated, crit, onslaught, elusive, and life. Basically, this is all pretty basic, nothing too, I don't know. I mean, the double elevated is pretty good, but I wouldn't try it again, if you know what I mean. But yeah, those were the boots. Moving on to the boot section, I had a double elevated again. I got very lucky with my Maven orbs, so I elevated the Hunter Tailwind mod and elevated the chance to gain Onslaught, which basically we have Onslaught from the Flask also, but you can get this from the movement speed, which we'll get into later. But the main thing why elevated onslaught is good is because it gives you 10% increased attack cast and movement speed while you have onslaught. If you have a steady source of onslaught, such like a onslaught on hit ring, cinder swallow, or onslaught flask, or onslaught on kill, basically you will have permanently 10% increased attack cast and movement speed during mapping, and on bosses when you have the flask effect active, you're gonna have another 10% increased attack cast and movement speed, which is very quality of life and speeds up your map progression. How do you get these? You basically get the elevated mods. Either you Maven them again, or you buy them, then you use Awakener Orb and you put them together. In my case, I got life regen again. And once you get your suffixes, you go again to a bench craft and you do suffix cannot be changed, reforge, crit, which the only mod that it can get, ideally you want to get like a clean one like this. You get elusive gain on critical strike. So after that, you do another suffix cannot be changed, and you ashling, and hopefully removes the meta mod. If it removes the elusive, let me try and do that again. If it removes the elusive, basically you just gotta go to harvest again and reforge crit, and hopefully it gives you a clean. Okay, it doesn't want to work. Okay, it gives you a clean elusive on crit. Once you have that, you do again and repeat the process. You do Asling, removes the meta mod, and you unveil it, and you get movement speed. If you get onslaught, is good. Any movement speed is good. And then finally, in the prefixes on the bench, you craft life. Where is it? Here it is. Craft life, and you got yourself a pretty nice pair of boots. That's how you craft these: double elevated, crit, onslaught, elusive, and life. Basically, this is all pretty basic. Nothing too, I don't know. I mean, the double elevator is pretty good, but I wouldn't try it again, if you know what I mean. But yeah, those were the boots. Now, for the gloves, you want a double influenced grip pair of gloves with Warlord and Hunter influence, just because from the Warlord you get +1 maximum frenzy, which is very, very good for Raider. And then you want the chance to intimidate enemies for 4 seconds on hit from the Hunter. They are both prefixes, and all you do is buy the bases and you walk them together. Once you have this, I mean, it depends what you get, but let's pretend we got something like whatever. We just have these. You're gonna have to adjust this crafting process based on the outcomes of your results from the Awakening Orb. Okay, so after that you can do prefix cannot be changed, and funny thing is you can do reforge life, but I really don't recommend it because this will give you this can give you a chance to get a prefix with life like this, right? You can try that, maybe get lucky, get a T1 life roll, but it usually doesn't really happen. But fun thing, even if you have prefix cannot be changed in an open prefix and you do a reforge of a certain type, it has a chance to give you a prefix if you have a prefix open. Now, but what I did is reforged speed, attack speed, and accuracy. This is pretty good actually. Okay, then we do another prefix cannot be changed. You do an ashling, and ideally it removes the meta mod but gives you a suffix. Come on. Okay. There we go. We hit it. Okay, so it ideally gives you a suffix. You unveil it, and the one you want is this thing. Increase critical strike chance, and increase elemental damage if you did a critical strike recently. And then to finish it off, you do craft life, and you got yourself a pretty nice pair of gloves. Like you saw in the in the example, it's pretty RNG, and it may take you a little bit of currency until you get the results that you want. But this is like the basic stuff and how to get the items that I currently have, and as such. Okay, moving on to the next one. Okay, moving on, I won't be doing a demonstration of the rest of the gear because it's pretty basic. The rings, I had 2 fractured rings with increased elemental damage for attack skills, and how I got these is basically I just spammed fossils until I got the resistances that I needed. Suffixes cannot be changed, Veil Chaos, and I got life. For example, on this one I got life, and on this one I actually got life by rolling fossils. So what do you do? By the fractured elemental damage for attack skill basis, spam fossils for the resistances that you need, and then do like non-channelings, have minus mana cost. For the uniques, I am using a Zoph's Blood with Lava Lash Anointed. It is the best in slot amulet. I tried to craft a double influence amulet with plus gems, crit multi, attack speed, but it did not even come close to Zoph's Blood, so definitely best in slot. Asnas Chant is the best in slot helmet for this build because it triggers a socketed spell when you attack with a bow with a 0.3 second cooldown. Basically, we're gonna put all our curses in this, so we don't need like curse on head rings or gloves. Okay, for the flask, I'm using Wise Oak, Cinder Swallow, a Quicksilver Flask, Diamond Flask, and a Dying Sun. Now, you could do a Bottle of Fate, but Diamond Flask with 66% increased effect is much more crit than a Bottle of Fate could ever have. The only thing with Bottle of Fate is the 10% increased damage on enemies on consecrated ground. That's about it. For the jewels, because we are converting all the damage from melee hit into fire, I am using a combat focus Crimson Jewel in here, which with 40 strength and int allocated in radius, prismatic skills cannot choose cold damage. So if we socketed this, our melee hit is only doing fire and lightning. To block lightning, we put another combat focus, but this one a Viridian Jewel up here to block lightning. So our melee hit only does fire damage. For the rare jewels, all you wanted for the rare jewels, well, let me find the rare jewels here. You want a lot of crit multi, resist, and life. Because this league introduced the crit fossils, triple crit multi without life are very cheap. They're like 2x a pop. I bought this one for like 1.5x. I bought this one for 1x, which is ridiculous. Now, because Eli Hit itself has so many tags, it has attack, proj, melee, strike, fire, cold, lightning, AoE, prismatic, and bow. You can get basically crit multi everywhere. You can get crit multi with fire skills, lightning skills, cold skills, elemental skills, with bow skills, with global crit multi, melee crit multi. All the crit multis apply to elemental damage with 2 Eli hit. Okay. So yeah, keep it short and sweet on the jewels. That's what you want. Resistances and crit multi. Crit multi is going to be a huge part of your damage. For the clusters, I am using a eye to eye repeater with resist, and guess what? Eye to eye repeater, eye to eye repeater. And for the large ones, I'm using 2 different kinds. I'm using a Feed the Fury, Fuel the Fight, Martial Prowess, and be very careful to buy increased damage with bows, not claws, not swords, not whatever, bows, okay? And make sure it has 8 passives. And then you only want Martial Prowess and Feed the Fury, so you can leech life and get some accuracy and attack speed. For the second cluster, I am using a increased fire damage cluster with Disorientating Display, Prismatic Heart, and Smoking Remains. Disorientating Display gives you elemental damage and chance to blind it by enemies. Smoking Remains increase fire damage, and Smoke Cloud and Prismatic Heart, all res and elemental damage. Pretty good. You can use Cremator. Cremator is pretty good. It helps with corpse removal. Over here, I'm using a Thread of Hope, which gives me Forces of Nature, Aspect of the Eagle, one with Nature, Primeval Force, Master Fletcher, and King of the Hill. This is a very good cluster node. Not a cluster node, a Thread of Hope slot. It's very good. It gives you a bunch of damage, and you can get some survivability here with if you have another point like chances to press spell damage and movement speed. Very good. Highly recommend. Now, for the masteries, I am using 50 life, reduce reservation of grace, increase mana reservation efficiency of skills, crit multi against unique enemies, reduce reservation of precision, 10% life, and that's about it. Yeah, over here, 25% increase of your marks. If you path down here, you have Culling Strike against marked enemies, which is basically all the time. I've seen some people path over here, but I find it a waste of time and points, to be honest, because you can get like more or less the same from cluster and stuff like that. But it's a personal preference. If you want to go here, you want to use a Lionize here and then move this one over here. It's totally possible. Do it at your own pace or whatever, okay? This is my personal preference. Okay, so I talked about the gear, how to craft it, the tree, the jewels, the skills, right? I will put in the PoB everything here under each tag: mobility, precision, and dash. Precision, I put it separately because I didn't have any room and the mana reservation efficiency is just enough. Molten Shell, we use it because we are spec'd into... Hold up. We're spec'd into Iron Reflexes. I'll go into the calculations in the configuration just a little bit. I have marked here Elemental Hit with single target setup and clear speed setup. Now you can go Woke Chain instead of this. It will give you much more clear. You can get Anomalous Mirage Archer, which will help you clear a little bit, but it's very expensive. And all the alternate qualities that I do recommend. I do not recommend any alternate quality Elite Hit, just the default one, a level 21. The single target setup is Inspiration, Awaken Elemental Damage with Attack Skills, Awaken Elite Focus, Empower, and Barrage. Empower level 3, if you get a level 4, it's more expensive but more damage, obviously. Pay close attention to, because we have Awakened Elemental Focus, which means our skills do not deal elements, cannot inflict elements. Basically what you want is, when you're fighting a boss, first attack with your clear speed setup, so you can ignite the boss, and then you attack with your single target setup. This is very important, because if the enemy is not ignited, you don't do as much damage, okay? Okay, so those are the skills. I put everything in here: your curses and your thermal snipers, smart flammability, and hands. And over here, gloves. In the gloves, I put your auras, Skitter Boss, Determination, and Grace. For Watcher's Eye, I am using a Precision and Clarity, Non-Channeling, and Crit Multi-Precision. So we're not using Anger, so we save some mana so we can use Skitter Bots. Now, into the configuration. We have Power Charges from our chess piece, Frenzy from our Ascendancy, Onslaught from the Flask, Phasing from our Ascendancy, Tailwind from the Boots, Elusive from the Boots. Okay? You can also take Heavy Crit recently, but you crit all the time because your crit is like 85%, but I'm just going to leave it unticked. Projectile travel distance is 10 because we're using point blank and we're very close to the enemy. Enemy blinded, yes, from our cluster jewel. Enemy ignited, yes, like I said, you use your clear speed to ignite the enemy and then you use your single target to burst them down. Enemy shocked, yes, from the skitter bots. Intimidate from the gloves. Covered in ash when they hit you, because again, we are spec'd into iron reflexes, so we don't have a lot of dodge or evasion, stuff like that. So you are gonna get hit and then you're gonna cover the enemy in ash. Enemy Cyrus. Now, why you spec into iron reflexes is because you need a lot of fizz damage reduction. This is the thing that's gonna kill you the most, like on any build, and it's very hard to circumvent. Now, because we took iron reflexes, as you can see here, we went from 23k EHP all the way up to 92k, which is huge. It's ginormous actually, and this mostly comes with the combination of iron reflexes with molten shell. Molten shell gives you a tremendous ton of survivability. If you have the money to buy anomalous, it is even better. Okay, so yeah, the build is very tanky. I did all the content with. I'm just sad that most of the footage. I had more bosses planned to show you guys, but the footage got corrupted, so I'm kind of disappointed about that. I'm very sorry about that. Hopefully the next build I do a video about will be up to par. But yeah, again, I think I covered everything about the build and how I play it. Yeah, that's about it. Further improvements in the build, there are some. You can get I am using a headhunter, but if you don't have a headhunter, use a belt with life or percent life, increase damage or attacks against shield enemies, attack speed during flask effect, and stuff like that. Okay, I think I covered pretty much everything. If you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a comment, give it a thumbs up. I stream almost every day on twitch.tv/Dante00151. The link will be in the description. I also have a Discord channel in the Discord channel, and the link will be in the description. Feel free to drop by, say hi, chat with the boys, and I'll catch you guys next time. Take care, boys.